Mirages is a fairly short, modestly priced indie game that feels much like a hipstery Arthouse film. Drawing from multiple 2D and 3D aesthetics and influenced by 20th century cinema, it tells the story of a depressed and isolated young man who attempts to overcome his fear of social interaction and find meaning in his monotonous and dreary life. However, the game also veers toward horror for a fair amount of its playtime, as the protagonist experiences a meeting with a supernatural force with a proposition to make. Coming in at about 2 hours of playtime, it makes for a nice one-session game, or a bookend between two longer games that you may be playing. So stay a while and listen while I tell you all about it. The opening scene begins in a void of darkness, watching the protagonist being tormented by the voices of friends and acquaintances. His name is Chase, and despite the Atari 2600 style graphics, I prefer to think that he looks like this. I don't know, just whenever somebody uses Chase as a name, I kinda think of this guy. Chase appears to be holed up inside of his room. After being surrounded by strange Cyclops figures with triangles for heads and a lot of voices taunting him, we suddenly switch from a 2D to a 3D game mode. Upon investigating the door, we have a 2D mode that, as I said, resembles Atari graphics, while this 3D mode has a PS1 feel to it. In terms of gameplay, it's not much more than a walking simulator. You go from place to place, interact with things, read the dialogue, and wait to see what happens. The game proper begins in a vast desert where Chase tries to find his way out. Within the desert is a window sitting by itself in the middle of the sand, as well as globes of water which appear to hurt terribly. On the verge of death, Chase finds a door and he goes inside. The scene changes to a dinner party somewhere. Chase sees his sister there, and after chatting for a few moments, he lays eyes on Penny, his crush who he is too frightened to talk to. I think that's a pretty normal thing to happen when you try to talk to someone you're into, right? Meanwhile, Chase's job leaves him unfulfilled, to say the least. His work consists of proofreading and editing dry, disingenuous corporate emails. In this scene, you have to click on incorrectly spelled words. The monotony, vapid coworkers, and doom scrolling every night make the days blend together until it does significant damage to Chase's mental health. Chase is compared to Sisyphus of Greek myth, pushing a boulder up a hill uselessly for all eternity. One night, Chase finds himself contacted by an otherworldly creature that claims to be of divine origin, and this scene was legitimately pretty creepy. In order for Chase to feel fulfilled and happy again, the entity demands that he perform a task which we aren't privy to. We get another scene of Chase attempting to make a connection with Penny. His social anxiety and awkwardness generally get in the way of him having a normal conversation with anyone, so instead he fantasizes that he's not so socially inept. Interspersed with some of this is footage from the 1957 film The Seventh Seal, which is a famous movie that takes place during the Black Death. In the film, a knight plays a long and intermittent game of chess with death itself, who has come to collect his soul. Meanwhile, the knight, his squire, and their friends and servants travel to the knight's castle where they can hole up. This scene here depicts the knight and the squire contemplating a life beyond death as they watch a girl being executed by burning for the crime of witchcraft. It's actually a really good film, and you should like watch it for real. We get another scene in the desert. It seems Chase has a recurring dream where he's trapped here. He spends years wandering and suffering of thirst. After finding and drinking the holy water, we find ourselves in a gallery that contains famous paintings. It also has various passages from the scriptures of major religions of the world, as well as some scientific writing. All deal with the nature of internal and external suffering. There are plenty of games out there that are basically art pieces in the form of video games. Since these games don't generally add anything that you've never seen before in terms of game mechanics, you usually want to judge them on things like storytelling, mood, music, and graphics. As is the norm on this channel, I usually jump in if there's some unique graphical aesthetic or theme that grabs my attention, and these people with triangle heads fit the bill. They seem to represent Chase's perception of being judged for his awkwardness, as Penny is the only one who doesn't appear this way. The music in the game is generally nice. It consists of soft piano for calm scenes. There's plenty of creepiness in the soundtrack too. In terms of themes, you may disagree with me, but I tend to think that the angst over working a normal 9 to 5 is a little misplaced because, in my opinion, having a job that pays the bills in this day and age is kind of a blessing all by itself. I think you're setting yourself up for misery if you look at your job as anything more than a business transaction so that you can take care of your needs. In fact, you could become a VTuber on the side and get your fulfillment that way. Overall, though, I found the game to be an interesting representation of a guy deciding to keep going in the face of depression and anxiety. Alright, spoiler alert, get off the ride if you don't want to hear him. At some point, Chase finds the courage to actually talk to Penny, who seems to tell him that he is not alone in searching for a meaning to life. She seems to be saying it's not unlike what everyone goes through, and so while you may never come to a real answer to the question of why you're on Earth, it's the same issue that billions of others have gone through, so it's okay in a way. Unsatisfied with this, Chase seems to disregard his crush entirely, remaining unenlightened as it were, at least for the moment. Chase tells the so-called divine being that he just doesn't want to perform the task that he was given, that he's changed his mind, and he'll simply be happy with what he has in life. This effect isn't doing my bitrate any favors, but it seems pretty clear that the entity was actually from the HE double hockey sticks. In the final scene, it seems Chase and Penny make a connection after all, bonding over hipster-ass music tastes, but Chase's search for meaning in life goes on. I'm thinking maybe we needed 1 or 2 more scenes in between Chase's discussion with Penny and deciding that he'll just deal with life. It just isn't super clear to me where the change took place and why he feels the way he does now. Overall, the game's not bad for the price of admission, but if you're not so interested in emotion-driven indie game stories, you might not be into it. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. I love weird, absurd, surreal, and artistically unique indie games. Do you know a game that might fit in on this channel? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want another video about some weird artistic games, check out this video right over here. See you next time.